Hello everyone, Sable here back again doing another match from UUCL, another week 1 match between the two people with the funniest names on the RBY side of this tour. So on one side we've got Draco Pope, aka The Chungler, all caps with an underscore. I have no clue what a chungler is or what chungling is, but I do enjoy saying it, so I keep saying they chungled or they got chungled whenever the chungler is involved. Because it's just a funny ass name. So, big fan of that. As a player, the chungler showed up in RBY Grand Slam, put on a pretty good showing, got to 5th seed, which top 8 make playoffs. So, one of the few people to do that, and coming in as a completely new RBYer and putting on really good performances in the opens. Made NU Open finals, made PU Open semifinals, and I forget the rest, but those two runs were the majority of the points in this case since it's 5 opens and those were the two best. But yeah, had some good wins during that. As with everyone in this tournament, they played in a different UU meta. So it's a little bit hard to say how it's going to translate to this one because rap ban is pretty huge. But definitely showing that they can perform in RBY even if it's not a tier that they've been playing for super long. Wanted, conversely, wanted in 49 states. The last one is Iowa for those wanting or wondering, because apparently Iowa fears him. Wanted actually recently had a breakout run. So Wanted also made it into the RBY Grand Slam playoffs, if I recall correctly, 3rd seed. And also won UU Open, actually beat me in the finals of UU Open to take that tournament. Again, rap was legal and Slowbro wasn't, so it doesn't necessarily 100% translate over. But I mean, coming off of winning the most recent UU individual is probably a pretty good place to be when we're talking about a UU team tournament and everyone having to scramble to figure out this new meta. I can't say anything about what the jungler is going to load. I have absolutely no clue what this person loads in UU. Wanted, I think just based on like VR and meta takes of like initial impressions of the meta and getting to talk to him sometimes outside of like the main spaces. We share some overlap on Discord. My impression of him is he'd probably load a fair amount of things like Haunter, have a lot of respect for electrics, but like also it's just like a viability list for a meta that no one's really played yet. So I don't know. I don't really know what to expect. I think like you can look at it and be like, oh, this person will load a lot of physical attackers and a lot of Haunter and a lot of Lapras and Hypno. And it's like, yeah, shocker, people will load good Pokemon a lot of the time. So I don't know. I don't know that there's really any scouting possible to do for this. I imagine, especially not on Wanted's end, because I don't think the Chungler made a big run in UU, if I remember correctly, mainly NUPU. Wanted, aside from winning UU, I want to say made decent runs in the other opens, but can't remember exactly what those were off the top of my head. As far as what teams they're on, God help me trying to remember that. I might just check really quick and find that out. Yeah, I'm going to take 2 seconds and find it, so bear with me, and then we'll hop into this. I can say a bit more on playstyle as I'm doing this as well, because Jungler's playstyle throughout the RBY Grand Slam, very much a person willing to gamble a bit and click some risky buttons, make some really hard callouts, but also like click some 60% and really trust that they're just going to land. So I'm just going to be interested to see if those land here. Wanted, I think, historically a bit more conservative on the plays, but coming into his own more, I think winning that indiv also probably good for the confidence and making some call out plays. And I found the teams. Jungler is on Mikan Island Monster Carrots. What a mouthful of a name. And Wanted is on Azelf on the Shelf. I gotta be honest, don't like either team's name very much, but I'm just being a hater. So without further ado, let's just hop in and see how these go. Kang lead and Electabuzz lead. So definitely Kang favored, but one Buzz crit kind of puts it back in Buzz's favor. One thing worth considering, Kangaskhan can body slam into EQ for a near guaranteed KO. It's like over 90%. So you kind of have that little optimization where you can get a 30% para slam and save yourself some health. The only risk of that is if it's like Buzz plus Haunter, but really, I don't think you necessarily want to pivot Haunter into the Kangaskhan here. You kind of just want your damage. Buzz, I want to say 3-hit KOs Kangaskhan, but of course a crit makes that a 2-hit KO. So it's not like all bad for Buzz here. And you can maybe make a pivot on the Earthquake turn. So immediate Earthquake, that's a little less ideal for sure, because now like you don't get the para, so Buzz is at least going to leave you down to like 20% or less and has that crit chance again without you getting that 30% para slam. And Wanted stays in and does find the crit. So that's a Kang down. And not to say that body slamming would have saved it, but it gives you a 30% chance you would have saved it. So works out okay in that there's a Persian to revenge, but doesn't work out okay in that there's a Haunter. So this Persian is walled, and now things not looking good for the Chungler. Para from T-Bolt, pretty good though, even with that Hypnosis landing on Persian. As I said in the last game, like you'd rather it land on Persian if the Haunter is alive and walling it. Both switching out immediately. So in a tier like you kind of have to switch out immediately, because if you just let in a Dodrio for free or whatever, you're giving up a KO pretty much. It's very hard to switch into bar Golem. On Chungler's side, you have a lot of incentive to switch immediately and not allow it to happen. On Wanted side, you have a lot of incentive to switch immediately and punish that. So this works out pretty nicely. Dodrio, even with the chance of getting Hypnosis, like it's already a low accuracy move. You can para slam, you can crit. So Chungler, unknown what he clicked there, I would assume Hypnosis because he is a bit of a risky player. But now already, even if it hits, it's pretty bad, and now it's really, really bad. So Dodrio, one of the better guys versus Hypno in a flat out 1v1. High damage, high potential for hacks with Body Slam, Para, and crits. And Wanted seeing Blood in the Water, just immediately going for a Hyper Beam and pushing that ever further. So now, even though Dodrio is going to go down, it took off half a Lapras's HP. You're putting on a lot of pressure. You probably can go into the Haunter to deny sleep and just get some damage, or the Electabuzz to just get some fast damage and guarantee that you're not going to get screwed by Para. Raichu, the switch in, so this is kind of forced, but it's not good for Chungler because as soon as this gets para'd, it's a lot less usable, and there's still a Haunter that can get a T-Bolt off on the Lapras or something, or a Boom somewhere. And the para makes it worse because now if you T-Wave, you're just so behind, and now it doesn't even matter. So agility from Raichu is good and all, but Haunter pretty good in a Raichu. Raichu just doesn't do that much damage to it. 32. So like this is pretty Haunter favored. Even with the para, like you just boom and you force it out, and even if the Persian catches it, it's a 50% paralyzed Raichu. But Chungler does not call that out, and Haunter gets even more value. Now I assume Buzz is just going to come right back in and threaten yet another T-Wave. And there it is. Dragonite, I think, has the Hyper Beam to KO this, and gets it. So Wanted still has a Lapras, still has a Hypno, presumably. I think most people are going to be running Lapras Hypno on nearly all their games, and tries to call out the Lapras on entry, but just gets T-bolted for it. I think that's pretty okay of a call out. Like, you're not super threatened by this Dragonite because it's paralyzed, and ultimately your number one concern is just not allowing Lapras to get too much off of Sing. So I think Wanted could have made the call out at least one more time, but ultimately dodges a Sing and then wins the speed tie, so this is just over. There's pretty much nothing Chungler can do except for dodge a bunch of Blizzards and Instant Wake, and then somehow beat two more Pokemon in the back, which we don't know what those are unless this wakes up and forces something. And yeah, that's just a game for Wanted. So definitely a little bit of luck. The Buzz got a lot more done than most Electabuzzes should, and the Dodrio hacks its way through Hypno. But again, like these weren't especially unlikely scenarios. Two 105 base speed crit chances is over a 40% chance that you're going to get the crit, or something close to it at least. So not especially unlikely. Dodrio, Paraslamming, or critting through Hypno, like you literally just need one free turn. A high roll slam into beam, I think, has a chance to KO Hypno outright. Again, 100 base speed gives you good crit chances. You have good body slam para chances. Just so many things can go wrong when you get stuck in Hypno versus Dodrio. And there wasn't anything that could switch into Dodrio. Not to say that's like some big criticism of Chungler's teams. A lot of teams can't really switch into it, but I think a team like Raichu, Dragonite, lead Kang, like you don't have that much here. Persian obviously can't switch in. It can kind of revenge it, but it's even then it's a little bit of an iffy matchup. So I just think this team had a little bit too hard of a time dealing with Dodrio, and Dodrio got a lot of value. So game 1 to Wanted, and let's hop into game 2. Another Buzz lead and a Hypno. So Hypno favored in a Buzz overall. The main thing is, again, Hypnosis is not a very reliable move, but you can just Psychic it down for a 3-hit KO and a potential 2-hit on a drop. Buzz doesn't do that great of damage to Hypno. You kind of have to load Hyper Beam to do so, but you want to have Body Slam and Psychic to cover for Golem and cover for other potential stuff like Electrics. So just trading T-Waves and going to Doug on a presumed T-Bolt. It probably was a T-Bolt since it does more damage than Body Slam, but gonna pivot to Dodrio and catch an Earthquake here. So pretty good spot for Wanted having the Dodrio in, and that's gonna force Slowbro in to react. Slowbro, good Dodrio physical check, but not like your ideal. Okay. Not a fan of that. That did 63 to Dodrio, obviously, but your Slowbro is basically not a physical check anymore. Hyper Beam, I think, would need to get a very high roll to KO, maybe a max roll even. So it's not like it's horrid, but you traded so much Slowbro health for this anyway, and it's just not very ideal. And if you don't have, I don't even know if this KOs from here. It probably KOs with Psychic, but so I don't even know what that Thunder Wave is for. Dodrio maybe tanked that Psychic, but either way, like, I don't think that T-Wave was very necessary. You could have always sent in Dugtrio to finish this off. And now, just like you lost your whole Slowbro for a Dodrio, and the only thing going your way is you have a paralyzed Hypno to block sleep. My bet, Jungler tries to make a call out here and click Sing on a predicted Seismic Toss, expecting Wanted to Seismic Toss the incoming Hypno. If I'm right, I'm going to be so mad. I'm so mad. So Chunkler like really does like these risky plays, and I do have to respect how ballsy that was and that he actually got the call right. What I don't like is even getting the call right's a 55% chance. It's just like surely positionally you just go to Hypno, accept the 100 damage, and now you're a huge threat, right? I don't know, but like now he's gonna pivot and Wanded's gonna click Hypnosis, inevitably not wanting to get chungled. And now Electabuzz has to switch into Psychic. I think surely you have to call that with the Psychic though, because like there's really not much risk in taking one toss. And now all of a sudden the Chungler is the one being chungled here. Because that's 60% on Hypno. Sleep blocking is not going to work after any more damage because now it's in Seismic Toss range. So you got to have rest here or you're just screwed. With that drop, I wonder if we see a rest, but I don't think rest is likely on this lead Hypno. It looks like a lot of... So you got like all three slow guys from Jungler, only two T-Wavers here. I bet the last is going to be like an electric or something. Because Slowbro does kind of go hard against this team once Lapras is removed so far. Kang comes in, gets a Paraslam, but gets T-Waved in return, and now there's a chance of a side drop in the KO. No side drop, so takes the KO back. Wonder what Wanted has. So I'm going to presume a Lapras, and beyond that, I don't really know. It could be really bad if there's like a Haunter or something and to this Doug trio or what have you, but we'll see. Hypno going to get sacked just to give some choices here and maybe... Okay, so there's the electric. It is Raichu. In comes Haunter, and this might be the best chance that Haunter gets to do something, but you do have to make some really hard callouts. Going to Doug, so calling that there's going to be like a Nightshade or something coming in on Kang. But wanted as a Kang, which is one of the better Doug Trio answers you can have. And I think that at this point, Chungler doesn't have much to answer Kang with. The Lapras is a little beat up. The Kang is now dead. Doug Trio obviously isn't an answer. Raichu really isn't an answer. So I do think Haunter is probably the correct play from Wanted. I do wonder if you just boom it. But like hitting Hypnosis would be so instantly game winning. Okay, it doesn't go for it. I assume you have to sack this now. Okay, gonna go to Lapras and take some chip. Actually, that's probably correct because Raichu is already gonna make it hard to get too much out of this Lapras, and just removing the Doug goes so far for the Haunter here. So it does lose like the whole Lapras for that, but Haunter is now just a super big threat. If it hits Hypnosis, this game is absurdly hard for Chungler to win. I think you just have to attack it. You can't really switch, obviously. So if it hits the next one, it becomes just like a call out game. Okay, so it looks like Wand is going to lose this. I would say that wasn't super hacksy, like definitely Hypnosis Miss and Para, unlucky, but yeah, like even that crit wasn't the biggest deal. Wanted would have had to crit the Raichu with Earthquake into crit the Lapras with Hyper Beam to win that. So a little bit hacksy, not that hacksy. I do think teams looked pretty Wanted favored. Haunter is good into a lot of this, but just doesn't end up going his way in this one. I think there were maybe some misplays in the middle, maybe some opportunities for callouts that weren't clicked, and Chungler clicked some pretty good callouts, even if half of them weren't rewarded. I do think this counter Slowbro idea was just silly though, and not on the right track personally. Not a huge fan of it. Wanted side, decent mix of physical offense, T waivers, guys with T Bolt to cover Lapras and Slowbro. Just didn't all pan out this game. And just kind of looking back at the battle log and thinking about turns, I think, I don't love Electabuzz lead for its many flaws against fires, Hypno, etc. But it is nice if they don't lead Hypno and you get to T-Wave it on entry or hit it on entry. Because then like you get some decent damage to start off before the Hypno's clicking anything. But it just sucks when you sleep block yourself and then you get sleep blocked all game long because of like this Hypno Doug Trio situation where the Doug came in after the Hypno took Para intentionally to sleep block. So Chungler is smart for doing that. It's definitely risky because Hypno could just fail to move a couple times and get screwed. But it worked out here. So 1-1, and we're into a game 3 situation. Will Chungler chungle or be chungled? And I'm going to get very old with repeating this joke throughout this series, but you'll have to cope with it. Haunter lead versus Hypno. So this is obviously favored to Haunter in terms of hitting Hypnosis, but Hypno being slower has that whole first turn wake angle. You can click T-Wave instead of Hypnosis and try to bully with Psychic because one Para or one Hypnosis miss, and this Haunter is just gone. So it's not really as bad as it looks on face value, but if the Haunter hits Hypnosis, it's awful. So hit and no first turn wake. You can try to burn turns, but if wanted just goes hard Kang, hard Dodrio, something like that, and this doesn't wake up, it's horrendous. So Nightshade into Wake, now we get a repeat of the situation, and this time it hits. And now the Hypno with only one turn burned and at 74, looking pretty forced to switch. If Raichu is your Haunter switch in, I am very, very concerned about your team. Like, what does that mean? You almost certainly have a Lapras, obviously, just booms the Raichu out, takes it right away. So I want to think about what that means for their teams first off. So on Jungler's side, obviously there's not like an Electabuzz, because that's just a better Haunter answer than the Raichu is. There's a lot of fear of that T-Bolt from Haunter and a lot of need to wear it down. So probably Lapras, maybe Lapras Slowbro with no Hypno. Or the Hypno's asleep. I'm stupid. There's obviously no Kadabra. If there was a Kadabra, you go to Kadabra. Don't know why I was thinking Hypno. I meant Kadabra. Beyond that, like probably not a Doug Trio because you probably just send Doug Trio in, expecting the Haunter to not immediately boom, and then you force it out. Even like Golem, pretty good send into Haunter, especially because they kind of have to run Nightshade now to account for Hypno because Cybolt just doesn't do damage to Hypno or Kadabra by comparison. So like no ground type, and on Wanted's end, one of this Raichu gone makes me think there could be a Golem, makes me think there could be a Slowbro, but also just like getting a 2-for-1 is really good regardless. So doesn't necessarily imply anything about Wanted's team. And there's an Electabuzz, so that's the thing that kind of wants Raichu gone. So I wonder if we're going to see the same thing play out as game one. And immediately going for the Earthquake. So again, Jungler, like, Haunter is down. I think there's no justifiable reason you don't go for the body slam first and optimize your odds. There is a Golem. Why wasn't this the Haunter answer? I think that's a big mistake. Okay, I don't love that. I don't know why Raichu was the Haunter answer. I think this Golem would have been a great switch into Haunter that would have gotten immediate damage. Don't like this sub either, honestly. It's just a free turn given up to Kang to come in. Like, ultimately, you're just trading off HP that doesn't actually, like, really get you anything compared to just clicking an attack. It doesn't really change your KO ranges. So Dodrio and Blizzard sucks, but you have to think Kangs are mostly running Blizzard now. The usual set I would say right now is Slam Beam EQ Blizzard. The reason is Dragonite is popular, Golem is reasonably common. It's a decent move that hits Dodrio. Like you can just Slam Beam Dodrio just fine, but it covers for that potential of a Dodrio or Dragonite switch in pretty well. It hits a lot of things decently, and Blizzard is also just a BS move that has the freeze odds. So I do think Dodrio in was maybe a little off base. Maybe you can hmm, like it's hard to scout, but I do think you have to be considering that EQ or Blizz both are likely to come in. And if you have a Lapras last, I think maybe that's where Lapras should come in and not this Dodrio. Both it's freeze immune and it takes like nothing from Earthquake. It does under 20%. So I think Lapras, not Dodrio, is the guy. I think that was banking way too hard on an Earthquake being the click. Like the Earthquake is clicked versus the sub because why would you not take the 100% hit chance over the 90%? But after that, I think you have to consider like Blizz does substantially more damage to Golem. So, in the off chance the golem decides to get out after an attack, or the golem crits the Kang out with a crit EQ or something, I think it's not unreasonable at all to click Blizzard and both cover the spread as well as give you more hacks odds on Golem. EQ crit wouldn't have KO'd Golem from there, except I think on maybe the very highest rolls there was a chance. I'm gonna go back and check really quick after this, yeah. 32 to 38. So max roll crit would not have KO'd. Crits only do 1.95 times in RBY, so it would have come up just short of KOing Golem anyway. Blizzard gives you crit odds to rob this Golem and freeze odds. So I think, like, I can't even call this hacks. I think this is just a misguided Dodrio switch. And like, yes, that sucks. You got punished, but even if you got this Dodrio and didn't take the freeze, Dodrio was going to be in Hyper Beam range. You have to make a 50-50 call out with the Golem. And even if you make that call successfully and you go Golem on Hyper Beam, your Golem's at 55 or so. This Kang's still at 64, so you don't even KO it. So you don't really like get anything out of calling that Hyper Beam, or you have to crit it with Dodrio Hyper Beam. Like no matter what, if this didn't freeze, this was horrendous for Chungler regardless. So I don't really rate this freeze as like some big game losing hacks. that Kang Blizzard was just a good play, and I think Chungler needed to see one more step ahead and consider maybe Lapras is the switch in here to the highest odds click for wanted that covers everything that is reasonably bringable. Like, yes, sure, Blizzard doesn't do the most damage and other stuff, but like this Kang's on 63. Blizzard is going to put it into Hyper Beam range. This Golem could have gotten crit in addition to getting frozen. Like, it's the best move. So I think Chungler is just off base with that one. One gets a free Hypno switch in, so the Dodrio has to get sacked. But just positionally, this really sucks for Chungler now. And it sucked even if that wasn't a freeze. But I think this Hypno is going to be really forcing because if that's a Lapras last, like this is not advantaged for it for sure. Just going for the Wake, I think, is a little wild because like Sleep Clause is active for Wanted, but not for Chungler. Like you can go Lapras and try to BS this with a Sing click. But now that you sack this, now you can't do that. So now you're just forced to go Kangaskhan. But sacking it for no reason after sacking the Frozen Dodrio, I think that's just like tilt, honestly. You have to consider that the Hypno's probably not going to wake up. And now Lapras has to dodge Hypnosis, hit Sing. It's just not going to happen. And now there's 0 things that can switch into Psychic, so you just have to sack this entire Lapras for free. Hope it wakes up. Hope it dodges everything ever. It's just unwinnable from here now. I don't think that Chungler can do a single thing to win this game. Like hard Kang into this Hypno means like now you need to crit everything. It gets crit on entry, but like that didn't matter. There's still an Electabuzz that's faster than it. There's still probably a couple other things here that could have taken it out. But Hypno decides I'm done with this game. Let's just go on to the next set. So Wanted definitely like there's a bit of luck there, but I think Chungler just misplayed this endgame really, this whole game really. Raichu is the Haunter answer when Raichu is just not a Haunter answer. Not using the Golem early when it could have gotten some good effectiveness and probably gotten a 2-for-1 somewhere. Hard Dodrio into a Kang Blizz expecting an EQ when it probably was going to be a Blizz every time. I just think it was mismanaged resources in this game. And I know Chungler is capable of winning these, so I do hope this is taken as constructive criticism and like leads into better games in the future against everyone except me. I hope everyone loses to me, of course. But Wanted played it well and got rewarded. I think Chungler is just missing some key optimizations that made these games like they look hacksy, but really Wanted just got to click better buttons that gave better opportunities to land the hacks. So a little bit of RBYism for sure. Like, yeah, you see a freeze and go, RBY. But I do think that the sets we've seen so far have kind of been decided by those little tiny optimizations and tricks. And in this case, like Wanted won game 1 and game 2, both while only revealing 4 Mons, and I don't think that's just a hacks issue. I do think there's some amount of missing optimizations. I think like slamming with the Kangs versus the Electabuzzes first and giving yourself those hacks odds would have been good. I think Chungler's teams maybe are sometimes just missing a little bit on, like the first team was missing a bit on the physical offense side. Second team, it won, but I think it did take a little bit going right for that team to win because of things like counter slow, bro. So like I think Chungler's thinking about the game in an interesting way. I don't know if I think it's paying off yet. So we'll see. Wanted putting on a good first performance, very solid plays throughout. And hard to say much about the teams on Wanted side, given that we only saw half of them in 2 games. But well played to him. Congrats on the first win, and I'll see you all in the next one. Let me know what you think. Click that like or subscribe button if you'd like. It gives me dopamine when I see the numbers go up. So do it if you want me to make more of these. I probably will make more of these regardless, but it makes me feel good. So be nice. And leave a comment if you have any thoughts or just because you want to. See you in the next one. Bye.